guys, it's Natalie and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a book unhaul. I've had a ton of books that have just been sitting in a giant stack next to my bookshelf that I've been meaning to get rid of, but I haven't really been able to, and I just have been kind of making the stack bigger and bigger over time. Since I'm reading more in quarantine, I'm getting rid of some books. So yeah, I have 37 books to talk about, and you guys know the drill. I'm going to tell you why I'm getting rid of the book, etc. Some of these are going to my grandma, some of these are going to my friends, some of them are going to my sisters, and some of them are going to go to the Goodwill when everything is safer, opened up again. So likely a lot of these books will be sitting in my closet until I can actually go donate them, but for the sake of me taking them off my shelf, I'm going to make a video out of it, so let's get right into it. Also, I might be making a depop and getting rid of some of my gently used books at some point, so if you guys would be interested in me doing that, let me know down below and I will definitely hop on making a depop. So the first three books I have are all classics, and they're just in an edition that I don't collect, and that is Anne of Green Gables by Ellen Montgomery, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, and Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. So like I said, these are just three classics in an edition that I don't collect, so I might either be putting these on Depop or giving them to my sister. And yeah, I actually like to collect the Barnes & Noble Classics editions because that's just my personal preference, but yeah, I will be getting rid of these. Up next, I have Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. This one is a classic that I picked up from my library, I believe, for only $1, and it's like really tattered. I decided that I'm not going to read this one because it has sexual assault in it, and that's something that I'm kind of sensitive to reading, so I really don't want to put myself through a panic attack for a book. So yeah, unfortunately, I will be getting rid of this one. Up next, I have Night by Elie Wiesel, and this one is another classic, and this one is just a really old, again, tattered copy that I picked up from a library book sale for only $1. The pages are really yellowed and the spine is incredibly cracked. I think this is an original printing from like 1986 or something, so it's old. Like I said, I just want to get a different edition of this, so I'm going to be getting rid of it. Up next is a thriller, and that is The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. And as you guys know, I've been kind of figuring out my reading taste a little bit more, and I'm really not in love with the idea of thrillers that much. Like, they're not my favorite thing to read. I tend to like them, but like not to where I would want to really read them again, and I don't see the point in really having them. So this one specifically I'm getting rid of because it also has a sexual assault in it that apparently goes unavenged, and I really just don't want to read about that, so I'm going to be getting rid of this one. Up next, I have a book that I read in April, and I ended up giving it a 3-star rating, so it was kind of like middle of the road for me, and that is Here We Are Now by Jasmine Warga. This one I was really excited to read because I've read some of Jasmine Warga's stuff before and I really enjoyed it, but this one kind of just fell flat for me, so I'm going to be passing this on to probably my younger sister who would enjoy this a lot more than me. Up next, I have another book that I read in April, and I give it kind of like a middle of the road rating. I rated it 3.5 stars, and I just don't think I'm going to read it again. So that is Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. I really enjoyed this book, and I really liked what it did in terms of putting a lens on racism and classism and things like that. I really enjoyed that, but it's just not something that I see myself reading again, and I know so many people love this book and this author, so I feel like I should give this to someone else and give them the opportunity to enjoy the story. So yeah. Up next, I have The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. This is the first book in the His Dark Materials series. This is a series that I read a really long time ago when I was younger, and I saw the Golden Compass film adaptation, but it's not something that I see myself reading again, and plus I got this really old copy from the thrift store and I just don't see myself reading it, and this one's kind of old and yellowing, and I don't know, I just feel like someone else would enjoy this, so I'm going to be getting rid of this one. Up next, I have Hatchet by Gary Paulson, and this one actually belongs to my sisters, so I'm just going to be giving it back to them. I like to include these in my book hauls as well because it is coming and going from my shelf, so I do like to keep track of that. But yeah, this one I actually read in May and I DNF'd it because it was not as good as I remembered, and I didn't want to spoil my good memories of this book because it was one of my favorites growing up and I had a copy and I've read it a million times. But yeah, this one kind of disappointed me, so I'm just going to be sliding this over back to my sisters. Up next, I have one that I'm really sad about, and that is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and this one is a literary fiction, I believe, and this one basically follows a family called the Bonita family, and I attempted to read this classic in the month of April, but I ended up DNFing it because Our main character Ursula mentions that she wears a chastity belt to bed every night in fear that her husband is going to rape her, and then she also implied that all of her children were born out of rape and that she kind of just gave in, and I really don't want to read about that. So unfortunately I will be getting rid of this, even though this is a absolutely beautiful copy. I really thought I was going to love this, so I started writing in it and annotating it. And I really don't know what to do with this because I feel kind of guilty donating a book that's written in. So tell me what you guys do with books that you've written in, because I'm genuinely curious. I'm not going to throw it away, but I'm just curious to see what you guys do with them. Yeah, unfortunately, I will be getting rid of this one. Up next, I have this copy of The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. This is just a really old, beat-up paperback movie tie-in edition of The Hunger Games. I have no idea where I got this, where it came from, but I have the entire trilogy in hardcover, so I don't need an extra, and I'll probably be giving this one to my younger sisters who I know would love to reread the series. So up next is another classic that I'm getting rid of because I would like to have a different edition of it. But I feel like if I posted this on Depop, someone would definitely want this because I feel like this book is really cool and I've never seen anyone else have a copy like this. And that is Lord of the Flies by William Golding. This is a really cool mass market paperback and that cover is just so cool. Like, I don't know if you guys can see that. This is also such a really weird size because this is a normal mass market paperback and this is like tall and skinny in comparison. So it's overall a really weird looking book and I just think it's so creepy and cool, and I feel like someone else would love to have this. I just would like to have a big sized paperback for me to annotate, and the font is just like really small and I just want a different edition. So yeah, I feel like someone would love to have this. Up next, I have two books in the same series, and that is The Lost Hero and The Son of Neptune by Rick Riordan. Both of these books are the first two books in the Heroes of Olympus series, and they actually belong to my sisters, and I will be giving them back. They kindly let me borrow them so that I could start reading the series because I was telling them how much I missed Camp Half-Blood, and they lent me out the first two books. So I will be giving these back to them. Up next is another thriller, and that is You Are Not Alone by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. This one is a thriller that I read for the Literally Dead book club, which is a thriller book club hosted by Kayla over at Books and Lala, and a lot of the thrillers I read are because of her book club. If you guys are interested in participating, it's really fun, and I've enjoyed a lot of the books that I've read for that book club, so I will link that announcement video down below if you guys are interested. But anyways, yeah, this was the Literally Dead Book Club April pick, and I ended up loving this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was, I think, one of the best thrillers I've read so far, just because it kind of reminded me of like an adult Pretty Little Liars, and it kind of read like a Law and Order episode, but like from the victim's perspective before the cops get there and help solve everything. So I don't know, I just really enjoyed this book. But like I said, I don't really see the point in keeping thrillers because I don't usually reread them, and I could just reread it from my library if I really wanted to, and I think that I should give someone else the opportunity to enjoy the story as much as I did. So up next, surprisingly, is another book that I actually loved and gave a 5 out of 5 stars, and that is I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. This one is a YA contemporary that I read in March, and I absolutely loved it, gave it 5 stars. However, I wanted to give this copy to my younger sisters to read because I love this book and I really want to share that with them. So I'm going to let them have this copy and I'll just buy a different one. It's really fine. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I really want them to enjoy the story so we can talk about it and stuff. And so yeah, I will be giving this to them. So up next, I have this copy of To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is the really old, like, beat-up paperback they give you in class to read, and this one I'm just getting rid of because I would like to have a different copy, perhaps a hardcover one. And this one's just got yellowing pages, a very cracked spine. There's actually like some chewed off bits at the top where my boyfriend used to have a mouse and it literally bit the corner off. So this is just overall very beat up, but it does feel very nice in your hands. Like, it's very worn in, and I feel like if someone were to find this, they would love this just because it's like, it's got that like perfectly used book feel, and I feel like someone else would love to have this. Up next is a book that I ended up DNFing in the month of May, and I just don't see myself picking this up again, and that is Love Boat Taipei by Abigail Hing Wen. This one is a YA contemporary, and I didn't really like this book from chapter 1. The writing style is just like not for me at all, and I just could not push through that. So yeah, I tried listening to this on audio, I tried reading it physically, I just really could not get into it. And also, just like from what I've seen of other reviews, I'm not really interested in reading it. I heard the representation isn't the greatest, and also there's like rich people problems in this book, and I tend to really hate reading about rich people problems, so this just isn't something that I'm 100% interested in, and I feel like someone else could find this and love this. That person just unfortunately isn't gonna be me. Up next is another thriller, and that is Platform 7 by Louise Doughty. This is the March Literally Dead Book Club pick, and this one I ended up DNFing, and I just really wasn't into it. And also, I heard this is mostly about a ghost recounting her abusive relationship and what led to her death, and I just don't want to read about an abusive relationship, so I'm gonna be getting rid of this one. Hopefully someone else will like it. That person's just not gonna be me. So up next, I'm getting rid of 3 books, and this is kind of like a spicy, controversial pick, but you know, we're going to talk about it together. And I'm going to be getting rid of Fangirl, Carry On, and Wayward Son by Rainbow Rowell. Let's discuss. Okay, so let's start with these first 2 books. If you guys remember my January wrap-up, I read both of these books for a second time. Well, I read this one for a second time because I read it in high school, but I didn't really remember anything about it. So I reread this, and then I read the sequel that had just come out. And I gave this one 5 stars, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. But I really just started to read more LGBT Own Voices reviews and kind of just like thinking about the things that didn't really sit right with me in this book series, and I have just come to realize that how credible can an author's books be when she's writing about an experience that she has never even begun to experience herself. Like, she is a straight white author and she just has not really experienced the queer identity, and so how credible really can her books be? I think it comes into question, like, if this author is fetishizing the gay experience for, you know, a fun wizard story, and I feel like it's really hard to write a book of a different sexuality or different ethnicity that you have not personally experienced, because you're also writing from internalized stereotypes that you might not even know that you have. So personally, I just found this to be really fetishizing of the queer experience, and I really don't want to be supporting that. And also, there's a lot of bisexual erasure in these books. If you guys are interested in reading my reviews like fully on this subject, I will leave my Goodreads down below and you guys can see my reviews. But these just, I feel like, aren't a good representation of what queer identity really is, and I just don't want to be supporting it. So I will be getting rid of both of these. Up next, it pains me to get rid of this one because it's one of my old favorites. That is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. And like I said, this is one of my old favorites. I read this book like once a year during my high school career, and then I read it once again after that. So I've read this book 5 times. It's an old favorite, and it definitely got me through some of my hardest times in high school. And Kath was one of like the first characters who I ever like truly related to, and who I saw had anxiety like I did, and I just don't really want to support this author. And if I'm going to read this book again, it will be from the library, so I'm not giving her money. I'm having problems with this author, and I really don't want to read any more of her stuff, so I'm just getting her off my shelves for good. So yeah, I will unfortunately be getting rid of all of my Rainbow Rowell books, and I will not be reading anything by this author again. So I apologize. Some of you might be upset, hurt, shocked, disappointed, but she's just not an author I want to support, so I'm not going to. Up next, I have a really beautiful copy of Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. This is a really pretty copy that I got off of Book Outlet, and I actually just hauled it a couple videos ago, but I looked online and I think this book and the editions of this book are out of print because they're really hard to find, and I only found one of Shakespeare's other works in this edition, and it was Midsummer Night's Dream, and I want to collect multiple of his plays, and I don't want to just have one of them in a totally different edition. So I actually bought like 10 different ones recently, and they all are matching, so I just am going to be getting rid of this one. It's really gorgeous though, and I feel like someone else would love to have this, and also it has really big font, so I feel like this would be really nice for maybe my grandma to read or something, or someone else, I don't know, but it's really pretty. Sad to see it go. So up next, I'm going to be getting rid of the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. This one is a book that recently came out. I DNF'd this book in the month of May, and you guys can watch my May wrap up down below if you guys are interested in hearing why I DNF'd this one. But to summarize it, the vampire in this book only kills black kids living in poverty, and it apparently isn't really like addressed. Well, it is, the topic of racism is addressed, but it's basically fixed by using a white savior trope, and I really just don't want to read that. So I DNF'd this book, and hopefully someone else will love it. It's just not going to be me. So up next I have two thrillers, that is The Lying Game and The Death of Mrs. Westaway by Ruth Ware. And like I said, I'm just finding I don't really love thrillers, and so I just feel like I should pass them on to someone else who's going to enjoy them, maybe even read them more than once, and just, I don't know, I feel like I should give someone else the opportunity to have these. So yeah, I will be getting rid of these. So up next I have a couple of library books that I need to return. So the first one I have is Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand. I read this one in March and I really enjoyed this one, but like I said, it's a library copy, so this one will be leaving my shelves after 2 months, so yeah. Up next I have Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay, and this one I really loved, so I bought my own copy. So I will be returning this library copy to the library where it belongs. Up next I have The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren, and this is another one that I really enjoyed, to the point where I bought my own copy, and I just really love this one. It's an adult romance. It's a lot of fun, so I'm going to be giving this one back to the library as well. And then the last library book I'll be returning is The Mother-in-Law by Sally Hepworth. This one is a thriller that I DNF'd in the month of March, and I just wasn't really interested in the story or what was going on, so I will be giving this back to the library. So up next I have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This is actually one of my favorite classics of all time, but this isn't the classics that I would like to collect, so I am going to be getting rid of it because I already have a copy of it in the Barnes & Noble's like classics school kind of editions. I don't know, I just really like them. They're quite simple, and I like the paperback format also. So unfortunately I'm going to be getting rid of this, even though it's got purple sprayed edges, it's got gorgeous tie-dyed end pages. I just feel like if I put this on Depop, someone else will definitely think this is a steal and pick this one up just because it's so dang pretty. So yeah, I unfortunately am going to be getting rid of this. Up next I'm going to be getting rid of Layout on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. This is another book that I am getting rid of for the same reasons that I'm getting rid of Carry On and Wayward Son, because there's bisexual erasure and a very non-accurate representation of queer identity, and I just don't want to support that. So yeah, this book is going yeet out the window. So up next I have another thriller, and that is The Other People by CJ Tudor. This is a book that I read in the month of February. This was the February Literally Dead Book Club pick, and I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really fun, really interesting. But like I said, I don't really reread thrillers, and I feel like I could give someone else the opportunity to love this book, so it will be leaving my shelves. Next, I'm getting rid of a book because I want a different edition of it, not because I didn't like it, and that is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, and this is the Book of the Month edition, and I actually wanted to get a paperback edition of this to match the arc that I got of Take a Hint, Danny Brown, which is the companion to this one, and I want them to be the same size. So I am going to probably end up giving this one to my best friend so she can read it, because I absolutely loved it, and I also want her to read it and love it, so I probably will be giving this to her. Up next I have another thriller, and that is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, and this one is one that I read, I really enjoyed. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars, but I don't think I'm going to be reading it again, and I want someone else to enjoy it, so I will be getting rid of this one. Lastly, I will be getting rid of Into the Water by Paula Hawkins. This is another thriller. I picked this one up because I read Girl on the Train and really enjoyed it, but I have since gotten rid of Girl on the Train as well, so I'm just really not interested in thrillers that much anymore, and the ones that I am interested in still, I will be getting them from the library so I don't have to purchase them and then get rid of them. So I will be getting rid of this. So yeah, those are all the 37 books that I will be getting rid of. It feels good to finally get rid of them. There has just been a towering stack next to my bookshelf, and it was looking at me, looking me in the eyes, and I needed to get rid of it. So there it is. Like I said, some of these are be going to family members, my friends, or Goodwill, or maybe even Depop if you guys are interested in gently used books let me know. I will make a depop. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Leave a like, subscribe down below, and hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss a single upload, and have a great day. Bye!